Hello everyone and welcome to SkShadow. Welcome back to another episode of our F1 2020 My Team Career Mode. And yeah, this time we are moving on to Spain, and you can see that there's a couple of days to plan some activities, so really not a long time. So I decided to just chuck the sponsor event promotion on, because that'll give our team a little bit of a claim. It cost us 5k in cash, but you know, that's not really an issue. We've got 11.8 mil of the stuff. At this point I was thinking maybe I could do an upgrade on one of the things, but we do have to bear in mind we need to afford our teammates renewal. Our engineer recommends that we go for this particular upgrade for the engine, which is an energy recovery system upgrade. So, I mean, as you can see, we're not too bad in the engine department, and that is 1100 points, which could be spent elsewhere, but telling you now, upgrading the EOS, that makes such a huge difference. It's insane, to be honest. Weather-wise, we are dry in the quali and the race, so that is absolutely perfect for us. No issues there. And development-wise, we have moved a little bit, so we are a little bit closer to McLaren and Renault than we were, but not a huge amount, so still going to be fighting to get into sort of Q2 and probably not into Q3 yet. So we are into Q1, so this is our first run here, and you can see going on to first corner, perhaps taking a little bit too much of the track on the second corner, but not to worry. One really annoying thing is I changed the engine components for practice to make sure it didn't wear the ones we were going to use in the race, and then I forgot to change them back, and that's why you can see the little yellow gearbox icon in the bottom right. Yeah, so that means that where we qualify really doesn't matter too much, because we're going to end up at the back, because I'm going to need to change those engine components, and we do a 118.061, and you can see that is well, certainly not good enough. You've got Ilott in the Williams doing a 117.8. You can see most of our time is lost in sector 3. We're about a second off of most people. Sector 1 and 2 not too bad, I suppose, but yeah, sector 3 is where it's at. And here we go on our second run of Q1, going on to the last corners, which I really don't like, these last two corners, and I think most people are of the same opinion. It would be a much nicer track if they weren't there, but crossing the line we are 1.4 seconds quicker, so we managed green sector in all three of them, unsurprisingly.
Their best lap time is a 1 minute 16.3.
Here our teammate did a 116.3, which is confirmed when we go into the timing screens. 116.388, I think that says. And that puts us in P14, which after skipping forward, we stay in P14. Ocon improves ever so slightly with a 116.314, but we are both into Q2. I'm not expecting us to get into Q3, but both being into Q2, that is definitely a step forward on where we normally are. Across the line in the first one with a 117.1, which again is really slow, and again it's the third sector. And you can see Ocon also mucked up the third sector with a 117.0. But we do go out again for our second run of Q2. You see us back at that horrible little section of the track there. We crossed the line, 116.382. So not quite as good as Ocon did in Q1, but that is about 3 tenths quicker than we did. That puts us 14th and Ocon in 15th with a 116.4. So starting next to each other on the grid, which is always nice. But yeah, both drivers into Q2. And with the pace we've got, I think the car's got pretty good race pace. So could be points. We'll have to wait and see. One thing that will certainly make points a little bit harder is this, and you can see further confirming that whole engine component issue I was talking about. Yeah, we're going to have to change the internal combustion engine, a few other bits, and yeah, we're going to rack up the penalties there, and going to start last for the race.
The Spanish Grand Prix has been a permanent fixture on the Formula One calendar for over 30 years now, and for good reason. Do you remember Michael Schumacher's absolute dominance here in that rain-soaked Grand Prix in 1996? That day he took his first ever victory for Ferrari, and we've had many more iconic moments since. It's a sellout crowd of 140,000 here today as we await lights out for the 730-metre sprint down to turn 1 of this 2.9-mile racetrack. Overtaking is challenging through these 16 corners, but there's still a lot of high-speed excitement to be found, including the flat-out turn 3 and the terrifying blind right of turn 9. With the race minutes away from starting, here's what today's grid rundown looks like. Lewis Hamilton lines up on pole position, and Valtteri Bottas will line up alongside. Looking at the rest of today's grid, we have Verstappen, Ricciardo, Carlos Sainz, and Albon, Perez, Norris, Gasly, and Daniel Kvyat, Hubert, Vettel, Charles Leclerc, and Ocon, Giovinazzi, Russell, Kevin Magnussen, and Nicholas Latifi, Stroll, De Vries, Ireland, and the engineer. And with lights out just moments away, it's time to go down to the track.
So strategy-wise, it looks like we're going to be doing a one-stop on mediums to hards, and it suggests that we do it at lap 15. And the guys ahead of us are going to be doing 2 stops, so we'll try and capitalise on that. And it's lights out, and away we go for the Spanish Grand Prix. Looks like the guys ahead get decent start. You've got one of the Racing Points sticking their nose out there. You can see us right at the back. Are we going to go for a dive bomb on the Haas? We do, round the outside, but we just get squeezed a little bit. You can see we're still side by side with the Haas there. We have overtaken De Vries. We are now on our way to try and get Ilott and Latifi, the 2 Williams ahead, which we dive bomb past one of them. Think about dive bombing past the other one, but thought better of it. However, it isn't long until we go for it, and we go around the outside there of Latifi in the Williams and make it stick. He looks like he's coming back at us. He's got a pretty quick Mercedes engine in there. We're still side by side, but we just about managed to eke it out going into this straight here. And we've got ahead of us Magnussen in the Haas. He does have the Ferrari engine, which we know is pretty damn slow at the moment. And we are still side by side, but we've got past. Now is going to be the tough part, because we have Lance Stroll ahead of us in the Racing Point, which, if the development chart is anything to go by, they're going to be a quick car. Ahead of him is the 2 Alphas, so once we've got past Stroll, if we do, they should be easy pickings. But yeah, it's the Stroll situation which is going to be difficult for us, using overtake and Rich to try and stay with him. But yeah, like I say, it's not going to be easy.
Stop left in our strategy. 13 laps until your pit window is open.
Yeah, just confirming we are doing a one-stop, and we go for a very late move there. And do we stick with it? No, we have to back out, and he just moves over to the left and pretty much gifts us the position there. So yeah, I thought I'll take that. Why not? So now we've got the 2 Alfa Romeos ahead of us, and we're going to try and get him. It's on to lap 5 now. DRS, of course, is activated, but we don't even need to use it because Giovinazzi's engine just blows up right in front of us. So easy passes in a row. Once where Stroll basically handed it to us, and then Giovinazzi engine blew up. We don't get a safety car or anything as usual, so nothing more interesting there. Moving on to lap 7. Slowly starting to get the hang of this car. Set in a couple of green sectors in the fastest lap of our race.
0 seconds. They're on old mediums. They're in 7th. The time last lap was a 1:20.4.
Yeah, our teammate is up in 7th, not too far from us, so we should be able to get him, hopefully, but we do need to work on getting Russell first. We're within DRS, so once we're there, shouldn't be too difficult. As you can see, we set a best lap of the race again, and we're using all the Rich, all the overtake we can, but it's still not quite enough, and we have to really slam on the brakes there, otherwise we would have gone into the back of him, and that would have been our race over twice in a row, which certainly wouldn't have been ideal. However, we are much closer now on lap 9, and yeah, get it done way before the braking zone. So up into P5 for us now, P3 actually. Moving on to lap 15. Obviously, a lot of people have gone into the pits, as along with Ocon. I know we were supposed to stop lap 15, but Ocon decided he was going to go in lap 15 instead, so I've had to stay out an extra lap, and these tyres are really getting pretty difficult, as you see. Well, you would have heard I made a little bit of a lock-up there, but for this lap, we are going to be in first. Bottas is 2 seconds behind, so we've got to try and keep him behind until we get into the pits, but that should be easy enough. And there we go, into the pits we go, and let's see what sort of a stop we can do this time. Pretty quick, 2.1 seconds. That would give Red Bull a run for their money, I think. As we pile out of the pits here, where do we end up? Just behind Gasly. Can we go past him? No, he does lock up, but we're too far back to make anything of it. But we are closer. We are much closer. We are, well, within the DRS zone of our teammate Ocon now. And, as you can hear, Gasly is due to stop again, so we don't even have to worry too much about trying to overtake him on track, because he is going to be diving into the pits at some point. Although he's diving to the side of Ocon, and that means we have to take avoiding action. Side by side with Gasly's teammate Kvyat. Everything's happening here. Gasly's managed to make the move on Ocon, and now it looks like he's trying to go side by side with the Ferrari of Leclerc, I think that is. Doing some very, very bold moves for a man that needs to go into the pits. Although he's not doing it just yet by the looks of it. We should have DRS on Ocon. We do, perfect. And behind us again is still Kvyat. He is on mediums, and he's in an AlphaTauri that we know is pretty quick. Still a bit of fighting going on at the front between the Ferrari and the AlphaTauri. Side by side, we almost go into our teammate as we go for a huge dive bomb on our teammate. I'm pretty certain that was accidental, and he gets us back anyway. I was kind of a bit lenient there, but the switcheroo, the old switcheroo as they like to say, we have managed to gain the position back. So that is us up into P11. Ahead is Vettel, 1.3 seconds. In the Ferrari, we might catch him. Probably not, though. And then ahead of him is Gasly, which obviously he's due to pit. So putting us net P10, which is good. I'm sure there's a few people ahead that need to pit as well. And then once they do, as you can see, a few of them are, we cross the line for starting lap 20 in P8. With Albon incredibly close ahead. Can we stay ahead of him? We do. We do stay ahead of him. As much as I would have loved to keep fighting Albon for P7, which I think I do for a little bit, but eventually I have to let him go. As you can see here is where it happens. I don't even bother using the overtake or the rich or anything like that. Although looking a bit closer, that was actually Verstappen. So yeah, we'd already got overtaken by Albon, who has set the fastest lap of the race so far. We're not going to be catching the Red Bulls in the slightest. It's just not going to happen. The Ferrari of Vettel is ahead of them at the moment. But yeah, we move on to lap 33 here. The very last lap. Leclerc behind us has managed to get past our teammate Ocon, which is a bit of a shame. He's about 5 seconds behind us now. To be honest, I was putting in some serious laps in those last few laps, but nothing much interesting happened, so I didn't bother showing you. But yeah, we crossed the line, and P8 for us, and then that means Ocon P10. So double points for the team when we get driver of the day, because obviously we started at the back. Yeah, so further confirmation there, P8, P10 for the team, absolutely fantastic. Standings wise, that puts us P8 with 27 points, ahead of us is Ricciardo with 31. Hamilton has picked Sergio Perez, so he's on 76 points, whereas Perez on 68, I think that was. And you see our teammate in 16th with his one single point that he earned this race. That has dropped the team down to P7, 28 points in total. Not too bad though. I think more points are definitely on the cards. But yeah, other than that, thank you very much for watching. Make sure to like, subscribe, comment, all that fantastic action. And that's it from me. Good night.